In Chapter 12, we're going to look at managing clones and templates. And really, the biggest thing I want you to see is the difference between the two and why you do one over the other, and what their purpose is. So let's just go ahead and start. And this isn't a very big chapter like the last one. It's pretty light. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at what we need to do. So the idea of a clone is you have an exact copy of a virtual machine that you already have. And if you want an exact double, you really like it, go ahead and just create a clone. However, if I want to have a standard starting point for all my uh, VMware boxes of a certain type, I'm better off creating a template. Now, a template is a VMware box that can't be turned on and can't have changes made to it unless you convert it back to a VMware box. Okay, so a template is just that. It's the what we start with. Okay, and so if you want everyone in a certain division to have a particular computer with a particular operating system with certain configurations, you get what you want and then you convert it to a template, and from there you can start basically in a way cloning or recreating new VMware boxes using that template. Now, templates are a little bit faster to use to create new virtual machines, and a little bit more accurate. But beyond that, it's whichever one suits your purpose. If I just want to create one or two from an existing VMware box, then I'm going to use clone. If I think I'm going to use it in future, I really like it, or I'm going to create a bunch of VMware boxes based on the one I've got, I'm going to convert it to a template and I'm going to use it as a template. Before we really go into templates, let's talk about clones. You can create a clone from an existing VMware box, either if it's powered on or off. The decision will be made is, let's say a user is using the VMware box. Well, I certainly don't want to turn it off on them, so I'll just clone it while they're running it, and you'll have most likely minimal minimal latency or anything like that. They probably won't even notice it. Um, if they're not using it, if I turn it off, the cloning will be a little bit faster. But it really doesn't make much of a difference. So to do this, I'm going to go to Host and Clusters. Okay, we have, actually it looks like I'm going to have to create a VMware box real quick. So in this host, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say new virtual machine. And again, just going to follow. We're not going to do much here. I'm going to call this VM base. Let's call it VMware base. And I don't like that. Let's VM. That's better. VM base or vBase. There. I'm going to select a host. Oh, I'm not in that. So we'll just put in discovery machines. Just put in training. Next, I'm just going to leave in that host. I'm also going to accept the data store that I'm currently in. I'm going to say we're going to continue to use EXXI 6. We'll leave it a Windows box. Now, this doesn't mean that Windows is being downloaded and being installed. It means that that's its intention, but it doesn't install Windows for you. You have to do that later on. Okay, this is the idea of allocating certain resources to it. Normally, I wouldn't allocate too much, or too much. Do what you think you need to do here. However, in later chapters in 16, we'll really get into this, so I'm not going to stress this section of customizing hardware too much. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just review this, make sure it's okay. Now, one thing I will say, if this were really a box that I wanted to clone or make a template, I would install Windows 10 on it. I would install the latest versions of whatever software I want on it. I would install drivers, things like that, to get it really the way we want it, and then I would clone it. We're going to pretend we already did all that, okay? And so here you have your base box, and it gives us some information here. We're not going to worry about that. I'm going to right-click it. I'm going to say clone, and here I have the option to either clone to a virtual machine or clone to a template. I'm going to clone to a virtual machine. Okay, I'm going to enter the name, and in this case we're just going to call it vbase clone. vbase clone. Okay, we've already been through this. Then provisioning, I'm just going to leave all this stuff the default. Here is where we could customize certain things. And see, as I click on those, you can see we have new options here. We don't really need to. I'm going to just click on one of them so you can see it. I would just leave those on there. I'm not going to power on the machine after it's created. That's going to be a problem because it doesn't have an operating system. But in here, we actually have a little bit more. Okay, so I can come in here and install an operating system. Okay, I don't really want to do that, but this is how it helped me install the operating system. I'm going to cancel. It brings us back to where we were. Okay, so I come back over here and I uncheck that box, so that option disappears. I'm going to come in here, say, hey, maybe I want to change the hardware. So I want it to have 2 processors or something like that. Okay, I'm going to change it back to 1, but you get the idea. Okay, I'm going to go back again. I'm going to get rid of that. There's really no reason to do this right now, just so you can see what it does. And I'm going to see that I have all of that in my summary. Make sure it's what I wanted. Hit finish. And sometimes it can take a little while to clone and be ready to go. So for example, if I were to right click this, tell it to power on, you see I don't really have those options anymore. And sooner or later, in just a little bit, we will see that come up. And I'm going to go ahead and pause this while it's coming up. Oh, I guess I don't even have to. Okay. Now, one thing I will say, I won't go into snapshots, we won't worry about that. So here we have our clone. It's an exact copy. Now, as far as a template goes, remember a template I would create if I'm really, really happy with the box and I want to keep a copy on the shelf just in case we want to use it later on, or I'm planning on using it to deploy 100 machines. The cloning, it doesn't make sense. It's much better to have a template. Now, a template, I can either choose to create a template from one of these 2 boxes, or I can convert this to a template. To convert it, I would just right-click it, find template, and I could say convert to template. It will no longer be a VMware machine. It means that if I try to power it on, you can see that I can no longer do that. Now, why would we want it so you can't power it on? It's so someone can't accidentally make changes to it because you got it the way you want it. However, if I wanted to recreate it into a template, out of a template, uh, 1 second, I actually lost the train of my thought. What if I want to make it back into a VMware box? You can do that as well, which will be the topic of one of the other labs we have, um, activities we have. So what we really want to do is we want to create a template from an existing VMware. And so we converted it to a template. Again, I can't power it on. It means I can't make changes to it. But in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to right click it, and instead of saying, hey, I want it to become a template, it says I want to create a template from this. And really the idea is to create a clone template. So I'm still cloning it, but I'm cloning it not to a VMware box, I'm cloning it to be a template. Okay, so those are 2 different ways to create a template. One was just to convert it to a template, which is what we just did. Now is to create a clone, which will be a template. Okay. Again, I'm going to call this vbase. I'm going to call this temp. There, temp. Okay, I'm going to leave it right where it was. I'm sorry, I need to specify a host. Okay, from here I can choose to change where it's at. I'm going to leave it where it's at. And I'm just going to say finish. So you can see this is real simple. It'll appear in just a little bit. Now, as you'll see, all of a sudden I had my templates disappear on the host and clusters view. But if I come over here to the VM and templates view, I can still see. I can see both of them. And now I have this clone over here, which is the vbase clone, and I have that one we just created, which is the template. Now, if I want to deploy a VMware from this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click it, and I'm going to choose deploy VM from this template. So I'm going to create a VMware box from this template. So let's see, deploy. The option that we're going to choose is new virtual machine from template. I know that the book uses the words, shows the deploy new VMware from this temple, VM new deploy. We're okay okay either way. Okay, so in here we're going to give it a name, and let's just call this is a horrible name, but new base. Oh wait, I don't even know what I'm clicking on anymore. Okay, so new base. Let's choose a host, or let's just leave the train as the host next. I always do that. Okay, it's not going to be one of our VApps, so that's why we're not choosing that. We're okay here. We're not going to customize any of the hardware. And finish. And in just a moment, we'll see another virtual machine. Okay, as you can see, we have new base there. Now, these templates, I'm going to get rid of one of these. I'm just going to get rid of this one. There's no reason to have it. Delete from disk. This template, let's say a couple years or months or something like that go by, and you decided that you want to update. Maybe you need a new driver or new version of the operating system or something like that needs to be updated. And you can't really update a template as is. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to convert it to a virtual machine. Okay, you follow the same kind of where you're going to put it, that kind of thing, same kind of steps that we would any otherwise. Then we hit finish, and now it is no longer a template. So you'd come in here and you'd say, hey, I'm going to change your settings in some way, or maybe you power it on and update it, and then when you're done, you'd convert it back into a template. So we go to template, convert to template. There we go. And that's really it. So that is it for the chapter. It's not really a big, long, horrible chapter. Hopefully it's fairly straightforward. And so the idea was to talk about the general differences between a clone and a template, and to get your hands a little bit dirty in creating both, and going back and forth between template and VirtualBox, template and VirtualBox. Okay. If you have any questions, just let me know.